You're not even
break it down.
What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us. We're back, Midwest Chicana podcast. Yay! Cheers out there too. So, thanks for being with us. I'm Deanna Munoz, and I'm trying to figure out what the camera is. And this is my crew. We got a crew. This is who's going to be with us all the time now with Midwest Chicana, and I'm super, super excited. So let's get started. Let's go around.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Luis Chavez.
your job title.
Oh, my job title. The data manager and special assistant.
And just give us some info about you. What you love to do.
Um,
First of all, he went to KU. He went to KU, so we talk a lot about that.
Not much. I just kind of spend most of my time watching transportation videos on YouTube.
Transportation videos?
Yeah, like public transportation around the country. I'm really interested in urban policy and what I like to do.
Hell yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm Lexi. I'm the marketing manager. I like long walks on the beach, palomas, margaritas.
Margaritas. What flavor? Plain.
I like classic ones.
Yeah. Those are top.
Mhm.
Right there.
I'm Ivan Ramirez. I'm happy to be here, and I'm the director of community engagement. Excited to talk about different things in this podcast.
Yeah.
¿Y tú?
What's up, God? What's up, everyone? I'm Sebastian. I'm the community engagement coordinator. Forgot. And I'm usually the guy behind the camera, but now I'm in front, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Don't mind. You've done podcasts before.
So I've done podcasting
Yeah.
before. I've done production. I handle a lot of the production that goes on over here at the LEC, Red and LAF. So this is just another one of those.
Yeah, this is like the people that have adopted us. So LAF is now part of LEC and Rev Ed, and super excited about that. And this podcast is literally, we have no agenda. Like, we just come on here and we talk about things that are affecting us or important to us or just what's happened this afternoon. So we love your questions. Like, if anybody has questions, I kind of put a thing out for, like, please send us your questions. Doesn't matter what it is. Edgar is not here, so we don't have tarot cards, but anything else, perfect. Yeah, so I know, Yvonne, do you have anything?
No, I wasn't. Well, earlier we talked about running over animals. I don't know if we were going to talk about that.
Lexi, you have to tell us what happened.
No, I ran over a squirrel the other day, and I almost threw up. Like, it was so bad. It was so scary. I heard the thump. Like, it was really bad. I felt bad. But he just ran out, turned his back towards me, and I couldn't swear. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not sacrificing my life for yours.
Did you stop?
I couldn't. I was like,
you just kept going?
Downhill, and somebody was right behind me. Like, they were pretty close to me. So that's why you don't drive close to people, because you can hurt animals.
Yeah,
you can hit a squirrel.
Absolutely.
I read over a possum once.
That's a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's
It was at night, and I hit a big thump, and I was like, that must have been a real or something. Then I turned back, and I moved off to the side, and I looked, and there was a possum on the floor.
scary.
That is very scary. Yeah.
It's horrible.
I think about it every day.
Well, that was our first topic. Well, can we talk about at our first recording, we talked about our identities and how we realized, or where we realized when we were Latinos. Let's rehash that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, yeah.
Because our first podcast didn't work out. Our audio went kind of kabooey. So, especially we've been trying to do this ever since.
We should have.
We had some really good conversation about identity, and I know a lot. This is like a hot topic sometimes, and especially when it comes around the word Chicana. So I know all of you, we all have different identities, and I know. Thank you for trusting the Midwest Chicana podcast, because we wanted to keep it the same type of thing and not change it, and keep it like it was. And so that's what this is, like just us in our community and just talking. So yeah. I know you guys.
You should start us off.
Okay.
Tell us about like identity and like LAF and everything.
Yeah, so LAF comes with like its own identity. Like it's literally me bursting out the seams in this organization. And so I think for the last 15 some years I've kept it that way. Like I haven't really changed a whole lot. And even here, being okay with that has been phenomenal. Like Lexi does our marketing and working alongside me and like ensuring that voice is still there. So it's been really amazing because I feel like our Chicano community doesn't always get the love or the excitement out there that others might. And there's such a big Chicano community here in Kansas City that I feel like there's just so much talent and everything. Like our culture is beautiful. And so I feel like there's so much to be celebrated, talked about, that we don't really get that platform. So that's why we wanted to do this, and that's why we're here. Yeah.
I think it gets misunderstood, or people don't understand it. I don't. Well, talking to me personally, sometimes, moving here from Mexico to the U.S., I really didn't understand the Chicano community, what being a Chicano was.
How'd you feel when you heard that? Like the name, like even like.
Oh yeah, is it a little Mexicano?
A lot of people say, yeah,
It's
they
not?
say little man. They
Yeah.
say, yeah, that's like some. I had to take tell me, he's like, you know what that means, little man. I'm like, yeah, and like, yeah, but yeah, I've had that.
Isn't it an indigenous
Yeah,
like identifier?
yeah, and I feel like that's. I mean, I think you can really make it your own nowadays. Like, it's not just stapled into this. Like, it's literally you can build out from it.
Yeah.
Like you're Chicana, but what does that mean to you?
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know for me growing up, like I didn't really hear anybody using the word Chicano. And I think for me, like people who did use it used it to stereotype a lot of things. So I think it has been a little healing to be a part of LAF and do things because I see those stereotypical things that people would identify Chicano with, like actually are meaningful and a part of the culture. And it's it's been awesome.
That feels good to me because I think it's showing that our work is being seen and being identified in its own way, right? Like you're not going to identify it the same way I identify, but it doesn't mean that it's a wrong thing or you know, it's beautiful, right? Yeah. And I think just being Kansas City Chicano is a lot different than being California or Texas. And I think we have our own identity here, which makes it beautiful. And embracing that and building up on that, I think a lot of us are doing. And so I think we're kind of making it our own, even within the city. So
did you always identify?
Yeah. So until my episode of Queer Eye, I never talked about it publicly. Because I was always told that Chicanos are like gangsters and drug dealers and they're bad people and they go to jail. So I never talked about it publicly, but my dad had a band called Los Chicanos back in the day. Yeah, so he was using that word. Just like old school, like, you know, Americanized old school. It was, and he played bass, and all his brothers were a part of it, and friends. And just to know that he was identifying that back in the 70s, like, I mean, that was kind of a staple back then. Like, you know, people didn't really talk about it, especially here in the Midwest.
So he's from Kansas.
Well, he's from Guanajuato, Mexico, and then him and his mom, who had 8 brothers and sisters, and she was by herself, moved here to like the Kansas area. Yeah, and that's kind of where he's from now, basically.
Nice.
Yeah. So what about your guys' identifiers? Talk a little bit about that. Whoever wants to start, we don't have to go on.
No, I mean, I can talk a little bit about it. Mine's similar to Ivan. Came here when I was 12 in Mexico. So the first time I heard the word Chicano, I thought it had something to do with Chicago or something. But
Doesn't it originate in Chicago?
I thought it was Colorado or something.
No,
I thought it was California, but maybe it is Chicago. We'll have to let that make me know. Let us know. Yeah, tell us, please. Yes.
Well, we have a comment.
Oh, we have a comment.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Oh my God,
Okay.
we've got to take it.
You want the comment?
Sebastian, you're the one in charge. You tell us.
You guys read it? Do you want me to read it?
Yes, go
You
ahead.
read it.
You read it.
So from Marisa Moreno,
Hey,
Says-
Marisa.
always said I was Mexican growing up, even with my dad being born here and my mom is white. Now I say Hispanic and I still get told I'm not Hispanic.
Oh,
wow.
I think that's a lot of us, right?
You are
Anybody want
like
to talk
that.
about that? Talk about it?
Who tells you that? Like,
Who said it?
I'm sorry, I sounded aggressive.
A group of people out here ready.
Yes. I also identify as Mexican. I keep saying I'm Mexican, but I'm actually from Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you're from there, but
Yeah.
also you don't really think about it when you're down there. You're just another one of like 128 million Mexicans. So
So, oh well.
You're
you
with
don't
your
really-
people.
yeah, you don't conceptualize your
Gotcha.
identity because you come here. At least I did.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you identify as Mexican?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technically Mexican American because I hold both citizenships,
Yeah.
but culturally and the way I was raised and grew up with it's Mexican. Like,
How do you guys feel about the word Hispanic and Latino? Go ahead. Yeah, I know.
That's a touchy subject.
It's
There was a time where it was only used primarily just Hispanic, and then we moved on to Latino. But now I kind of identify Hispanic as like people who were. Sorry, I'm hearing myself twice. People who are from España.
Yep.
Especially
Yeah.
like those are Hispanics
well, that's what
compared
it
to
is, isn't
Latino.
it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's what I've been told it is
Yeah.
now. And then people who are Latino come from Latin America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the difference
Yeah.
there. I didn't really hear Latino growing up. I heard a lot of Hispanic
Mhm.
being used, and I also identify as Mexican American.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
growing up was like you're Hispanic, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think so, but you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
well,
Tell
sure.
us about your identity because it's like
Mine
similar
is-
to kind of what I talk about too.
So my parents came to the U.S. undocumented in 1998, 99, I don't remember which one. So, but I was born here. I was born in KCMO, been born and raised KCMO. Growing up, it wasn't like I didn't have that much like Latino influence in where I grew up. And I feel like that kind of shaped everything because I didn't start seeing Latinos until I went to college, like until I met other people and I started speaking Spanish again. And I was like, oh, this is fun to see people who grew up like me, who look like me, and kind of have similar backgrounds to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you just consider yourself Mexican American?
I don't know. It's been a debate for myself because the more and more I like when I'm like still growing up and I'm learning more about my culture, my past, and then I realized that both my parents are from the indigenous parts of where they are. So now I'm starting to think of like, okay, where do our roots actually land? Where do we go? Like, and to think that I could take an ancestry test and it still not be able to tell me. I don't know. It's just interesting because I'm learning more and more about stories that my dad learned growing up. Luis knows some of the stories of like some mystical stuff. Like it was yeah.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah. So one of the stories that Luis
What about the bird?
I'm gonna tell him about the bird. So my dad is from Guatemala and my mom is from Mexico. So my dad is part of the indigenous people of Guatemala. He's from Huehuetenango. So growing up, he had heard stories about like Maya and stuff like that, but he just never believed it. He was like, that's not true. And it wasn't until one day he saw his brother's wife talking to a bird. And it's gonna sound weird. But
It ain't weird.
hear me out. He had said that she had done it before, that she had told stories to him about it. Like, yeah, like talking birds. He was like, I don't like, but he's like, I don't believe it until it's with his eyes. And so what happened was there was a bird, I think, in the trees, and the bird started tweeting. It's similar. It looks similar to the blue jays. What he told me.
Yeah.
And it was singing in the trees.
Wow.
And so the aunt goes up to the bird, or just like kind of looks up into the sky and goes, and hears the singing. And when she looks up, it stops. And she asks, is it good news or is it bad news?
Oh.
And then she goes, is it bad news? Bird doesn't sing. And he goes, is it good news? Bird starts singing again. It's like, okay, it's good news. And then ask the next question is her husband, so my dad's brother, had gone out of the town, out of like I think out of their little city to go work. And this was back in like the 80s. In their small village, they didn't have any telephone lines or anything like that. No, I'm not gonna say sophisticated, but like no modern like form to communicate with each other. And so he's watching her talk to the bird, saying, "Okay, so is my husband coming home? Is Gregorio coming home?" And the bird starts talking. It starts tweeting, right? It starts singing, and she goes, "Okay, great, all right, that's good, right? Is he coming in the next 3 weeks?" And the bird doesn't sing. 3 months, bird doesn't sing, and then he's like, 3 days, bird starts singing again, and then she goes, "Okay, great." And she comes back, talks to my dad. Well, turns around, talks to my dad. Like, "Your brother's coming home in 3 days from work."
Wow.
And 3 days later, he showed up.
That's insane.
And it's just like one of the stories that he has from his like indigenous past that he is telling me. Hopefully now I will tell on to my kids.
Is there a
It's
name
recorded
for
now.
it? Yeah, is there a name for it? Like your
No, I don't know. It's just the I think what it is for them is the ability to stay in like, touch with nature,
Yeah.
with
beautiful.
like Mother Nature. For
Yeah.
instance, like I don't know, Luis knows a lot about it, but I have a complicated relationship with Mother Nature.
Really? Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit if you want.
As in, no, so with Mother Nature, tends it tends to get intense in the sense like so like for instance if it's raining outside, I'll be standing by like the door and it'll just be light sprinkling, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step outside. And so I step outside and then it just starts pouring. Like it's just immediately pouring. I'm like, all right, well now I gotta go back inside. So I step back inside and then it turns again to just light pouring.
What?
And it happened one time. You remember that snowstorm that we had like in December or no January.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to start snowing until later on in the day, right? And then I started driving, and then it started to snow lightly. I was like, okay, it's snowing lightly, whatever, right? Like it's about to build up later on in the day. And then it just turned into a blizzard.
Wow.
And I almost got stuck in the middle of the road. And it's gonna sound weird, but like I talk. Like I just like speak it out. Like you should stop. I'm just like, just leave me alone. I didn't do anything.
Do any of your other family have something like that? Like,
Not from my mom's side, at least. Howard's.
yeah.
Howard. Mother Nature against
Yeah.
me.
The weather just doesn't like
The weather does not like it. That's what I chalked it up to. And then, I mean, talking to the wind, talking through the wind,
Yeah.
I think was another story that he said that, like, when he was younger, his mother would whisper into the wind, and he would be like miles and miles away from camp, from where his house was. And then like through the wind, he'd be able to hear like his name and his voice, and then he was like her voice. He's like, okay, we have to go.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
I love this type of stuff. So I don't know if anyone else has anything as well, but I love talking about this stuff for sure.
Yeah, I have no stories like that.
None?
No, my family is very like traditional Catholic, like one in Mexico. So we're nudistas in seco, which is they say we're very dry.
Very true.
Yeah,
Okay,
they say
yeah.
we're very dry up there. So it's very
Yeah.
none of that like spiritual like stuff that's down in like the center of the south.
Did you ever hear about like La Llorona and things like that?
Oh, Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
so
like,
everybody
all that
hears
stuff.
about that, but it's like stories to get passed down.
Yeah.
But none of that like spiritual stuff. Like even the way we celebrate Dia de Muertos is not as intricate or like as intense as it is in the center of the south.
Really?
Mhm.
How do you guys celebrate?
We go to the cemetery, we bring food, and we get drunk.
Oh. Yeah.
But
Well, I
we
used to do that
But we
too
don't do like
anyway.
an altar.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we're gonna go get drunk because Grandpa passed away.
Yeah. My family did that a couple of times where they would bring food to the grave and then have us all there and
Mhm.
do the same thing. So maybe there's a piece of that somewhere with that, the intertwining for sure. Yes. Was there Maurice's comment?
Yeah.
Because I did want to go back. Go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Okay.
It says people in general will say it to me. So not sure how to identify if my dad is born here and my mom is white. What does that make me? A my great grandparents were born in Mexico.
And you want
Segundo,
You
güey.
know what?
I'm not gonna tell you how to identify.
But I think definitely, like, it sounds like, I think that's the whole thing, right? It's like finding your identity is like such a big thing, because I think that's the hardest part, is like, it, like for me, not knowing truly who I was really put me between these two escapes. And it's like I couldn't figure out. I could never fit in. I was always acting one way here and acting another way here. And I just want to act like myself, right? So I think it truly is about how you feel. Like, it doesn't even have to have a name on it, I don't think. Like, I think honestly, you could just go and not have a name on it.
Yeah. I do think there's something to be said about it being interracial and Latino or Hispanic or Chicano or whatever. Like, I have a lot of friends who are interracial, and like I do think it's whatever you feel and you identify as, like because you're also, you have to, your parents are from different places, so like to have like a mixed like identity, I think is just whatever you decide to like it's a label, and like most people don't even care about those, so
Yeah, exactly.
it's just something we have to have in most spaces.
Yeah. Connecting point.
Yeah.
Pretty easy for me. It's pretty straightforward. It's the Mexican, your parents are Mexican.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't think about identity until you come here. You just
That's true.
by everybody. Like, everybody is Mexican around you, so like it wasn't until you come here and we're like, oh no, you're something apart from like the overall like society. So
Yeah.
that's a little different, but it's still Mexican. You don't have any other,
I guess it's very true, because like I was born here, so it's just a matter of always feeling that's just, I don't know anything else. I don't know anything else but always trying to fight for who I am. And I think it's just like you're born that way. It's like you continuously have to fight for who you are, and it's like, why? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like if you just feel a certain way and you are a part of that, then that should just be okay, right? But it's never really okay. Yeah.
I had my identity crisis backwards. I had it in Mexico.
Really?
When I went back to Mexico, like, wait, I'm not Mexican anymore, or Mexican enough anymore. So it was interesting. There, I wasn't Mexican enough, and I know a lot of people go through that. Mexico, you're not Mexican enough, and here you're not Latino or American enough. So yeah, mine happened backwards. Now I'm okay with it.
Now you're good with it.
Oh yeah. I go back and I can be Mexican or not, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's also like, I'm sure there's so many people who can relate to that. And then I think there's a whole thing about like your identity and finding people who also identify that way to be able to affirm who you are and what like label you have or complication you have with your, or confliction with your own identity.
And to kind of go along that, on another kind of topic is like, just because they look like us doesn't mean that they are for us.
Yeah.
I think that's such a big thing here, and especially in the Midwest, it's like, I think there's not as many of us here, and we are so siloed, and it feels like when we do have somebody that kind of represents us, but then doesn't really represent us, but then that's kind of who we hold on to, because there's only like one, sometimes only one, that's there speaking out and has like this platform. And it's like so hard for me, because it's like, why are the people that I would connect with and identify with at that level speaking for us? Because I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't feel like there's anybody right now in any type of power setting that can make changes or support changes that actually is for me in the family and lifestyle I live. I just see a person that looks like myself on it. That's it. Yeah.
In those political spaces.
Political spaces, I think leadership spaces. I feel like there's not somebody who can truly identify with somebody like myself, who is just a Chicana, who lives and breathes within this community that it's almost 180 of what someone would perceive us as, who is an entrepreneur in a different space than maybe your Caucasian entrepreneur, or even a Latino from Mexico entrepreneur, right? I think we keep getting boxed in, and the people that are political or in these leadership roles keep trying to box us in, right? They keep like, oh, because we're all looking the same and we should all kind of agree the same. It's like, no, you too need to ensure that you're speaking to everybody and not just the people you feel like, yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's kind of where I've been lately. Like, especially in this year with a lot of elections going on and things. Yeah.
Well, I think that's another example of why, well, Latinos are not a monolith, like we all know.
Yeah.
It depends. Yeah. Even here in the US, different regions have different types of Latinos or different, they have different mindsets.
Yeah.
That, and I also think, well, maybe you are that representation. Instead of looking for somebody, you are that representation for other people. And you're that person representing, and you're advocating for those entrepreneurs and those artists. So yeah, I see you as that person, even though you don't see anybody out there, but you are that person for many.
Well, I think that's why this podcast is so important, is because I've seen other podcasts out there, but it never really truly connect to like what I personally need. And I know that I've talked to other people that have spoken to that have been like the same thing. They're like, there's enough there, but there's not always enough. Like, you're not reaching in enough. Like, that's not who I am. Like, where can I find my voice? Right? Instead of finding somebody in California who has my voice, or somebody in Texas who has my voice, like, why are we not finding our people here in Kansas City? That's what I want to know. Like, do we have a comment?
Yes.
We got one more. We got from, I'm going to say Desiree.
Yeah.
I know it's hard for an older chica like myself keeping up with the identity labels. Do we think as a society it's overcomplicated?
Yeah, that's a great question. Who wants to take that?
I'll be honest. I don't think it's complicated, but I think in the best way it could be. So growing up, obviously, I was like, I didn't really care much for labels. I knew I was Mexican. I knew I was Guatemalan, but that was it. Like, I was just like, I'm just another kid on the street. Like, we doing whatever, right? So I didn't really care about my identity. I didn't explore as much as I wished I could have at like on an early age. And it wasn't until getting older I was like, let's talk about it more. I want to learn more. I want to talk to you about it more. Like, going to my parents and being like, tell me about your land. Tell me about who are you. And I realized that it's important, because I feel like that self-fulfillment of like, this is where my people came from. Here I am now, setting an example for those, or I am their dream that they wanted. And even with that, and it did become overcomplicated, but because of my exploration with it, my younger siblings have started to explore more. And so they're learning more at a younger age compared to what I did. So they grew up knowing these stories, knowing who they are, being able to represent themselves in spaces where they don't feel represented. Yeah. And being like, I am for instance, my younger sister, who's an engineer, one of the Hispanic engineers.
That's amazing.
At UMKC.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And she is the only darker skinned Latina that is there. So she is the representation for herself. She is trying her best. She's like, I'm trying to find people that look like me. And it's a little bit more difficult. So I think for the younger generations, learning more about their past and their identity kind of helps them represent themselves more. Yeah. Because if not, then it does just happen where you get grouped in. So I think the complication is, I think it's necessary. I think it's positive. I mean, so, you know.
What else views?
Debate me, please.
Debate him. This is all about debate for sure. I love debate.
No, I love that. I like complicated. It's not even complicated, but like labels are necessary, I think, and because I think they tie you back, right? Like you said, like to people, to your roots. Like because also like we all look so different. Yeah. And like if you didn't have a label, or you didn't have like things that you identified or presented with, like words, just looking at like a person doesn't necessarily make you feel tied, unless you're like, this is how I identify. Oh, me too. Where are your parents from? Like, that's how things get rolling, because you have a label.
Connection.
Yeah.
So we're kind of connecting each other in a way that we probably don't even realize we're connecting each other. Yeah. Right. So like my family is like, my mom's side of the family, she's a first generation, grew up in the West Side. And I'll be honest with you, like I feel like an outsider, especially even when I do events there. because of the fact that I don't live there. Like I grew up there, with my mom and my grandparents and my family, but I never lived there. And so I think sometimes we exclude people because we don't see them there, or haven't habitated there. And I get that. But I think the whole thing of identity is the roots that we have there are so strong that I never want my kids to feel like they never had a part of that. Like generations had to go through so much, in that space. Like that West Side space is like such a sacred space, I feel like, in Kansas City. And I think that's why I'm so protective of it, even as an outsider feeling, because that sacredness there holds so many generations of love, heartache, strength that people dismiss or don't even look at. And I feel like our voices there are so strong that we could just overpower so many things that are happening to that area if we could all just unite. And I feel like, I just want my kids to know that they came from something, right? And that when they're like one of my kids in college is, really struggling with the fact of like mentally, like there's a lot, right? There's a lot of pressure being in this space that others haven't been in. Like, I don't know what that feels like. My husband doesn't know what that feels like. Her family doesn't know what that feels like. And it's like, you came from a long line of people that made it. Like, no matter what that looks like, whether it's still in the same house or you built up something amazing, you come from something. And I think that's why it's so important for identity, because I feel like that's a connecting point. Like, you at least know you are connected to something, and it doesn't always have to connect with you. It just, it's part of your story. Yeah.
We got comments.
We do have comments. Also, Tina said, I agree with Yvonne. Yeah, that's a great representative.
Oh, thank you, Tina.
Chicana's like
Tina's
my
amazing. She's our volunteer coordinator. And she's phenomenal. So, hi, Tina. Pride Parade's about to come up. So, I'm always like, she's our definitely coordinator. She's phenomenal.
What comment will you? My 9-year-old daughter says that she's Mexican. However, she was born here, but her father is born in Mexico. Would you correct her and say you're Hispanic or Chicana, or let her identify as Mexican?
Just let her identify as Mexican. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my kids, I was, same way, my mom's first generation and my dad's from Guanajuato. And so that was like, the people are like, oh, you had a dad that was born in Mexico? I'm like, yeah. Like, it's just because I don't speak Spanish, and that's a whole other story of, the stereotypes my dad went through when he was growing up in the projects, that we never spoke Spanish because of all the discriminations that he didn't want to put on us. But that's kind of how, I think now at this age, I wish my parents would have known, how to help us identify, because I don't think they even knew how to identify, right? Because they had to be American. They had to change. So how are you going to tell your kids, oh, you should be proud of your Mexican, when I'm not even proud of it myself right now, right? And so I think that's where this conversation is so important, because I think you have that outlet now to do that.
Like, I have a little sister. She's 11. She was born here, but we taught her first language is Spanish. She didn't learn English until she was in 5th grade. Fifth grade.
She's here because you're from. Tell them where you're from. Like,
so I'm originally from Durango, Mexico, so like the northern part of Mexico, and that's where most of my family's from. Most of my family's down there. Except for my parents, they settled in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I don't know why they would do that,
but I think Newton has a pretty good Mexican population, doesn't it?
It has a decent Mexican population, but like by Kansas standards.
Yeah.
It's still like less than 10%. I think in the high school I went to, I think it was like 80% like white, like with German last names.
Yeah.
So like to tell my little sister that she's not Mexican because she wasn't born down there, it does not reflect upon the experience she's had here.
Yeah.
So I think we can identify as anything, because it's also it's like a protective thing, like this country, they often put labels on you whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
So, and usually it's not a positive label for some people. So I think being secure in who you want to be and how you want to show up is perfectly valid.
Yes, perfect.
Also, who's policing you?
I
Who's
know.
telling her?
You have to go to school. Like, you need to stop.
Yeah, she can
You got
identify.
protectors here. You got protectors here for sure.
I mean, agreeing with Luis. So, like, I told Luis before, I was like, the only difference that doesn't make me Mexican or Guatemalan was just where I was born.
Exactly.
So, both my parents come from the different countries. Let's say, for instance, they met in Mexico. I would have been born in Mexico. I still would have been Mexican Guatemalan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I was born in Guatemala, I would have been Mexican Guatemalan. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's all that
Mhm.
nationality
Absolutely.
stuff. But both of my people come from those countries.
Yeah.
So like they're placing that label on you anyway.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Own up to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. What are the other comments? I'm sorry we have comments. This makes me so happy.
I've grown up feeling like I couldn't represent because my Spanish isn't great. Deanna helped me get over that hang up or unnecessary obstacle I put on myself.
You know, that's the hardest thing. And I know Lexi, if you want to talk too, because it's like not knowing Spanish has been a huge heartache for me. All my kids are bilingual, and I'm very appreciative of that. And, you know, I can't blame my parents because my parents were only doing the best they could. And I feel some of that of what they felt, like that discrimination, that stereotype. And it's like, how do you? I mean, only thing that is safe is blending in. And how do you do that? You know, and my mom was darker skinned a little bit. Like, you can even blend in, even if you wanted to, right? So yeah, you become very Americanized. So I don't even blame them. They did what they could, and people are like, well, you can learn now. What I say to people like that is, not everybody is a good learner. I was not good in school. I was not good with. I just wasn't. I was the lowest person in my class. When you saw your class titles, my name was at the end. That's how bad I was at school. And now, especially being in Latinx Education Collaborative, you start to realize that you're not alone, and that just because the system puts you there doesn't mean that that's actually where you should have been, right? Because I don't even know still to this day if I have ADHD, if I have a learning disability of some type, but I couldn't focus, I couldn't memorize. And so I think when people tell me that now, they're like, well, you should learn. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the privilege to do that. Trust me, if I could, I absolutely, if I had a magic wand, I absolutely would, because I think being multilingual, bilingual, triple, you know, I think that's phenomenal. And I give everybody aces for being able to do that. But I also look at the people who can't, and I don't judge them because I don't know what their life is like, right? I don't know what their
Even if
learning
you're a
is.
good learner, it's really hard to pick up
It's
the language.
really
I'm trying to
hard.
pick up another one and it's not going well.
Which one are you
What are
trying
you
to pick
learning?
up?
I'm trying to learn Portuguese.
That's a good one.
It's a little easier because it's like transferred right over from Spanish, but
That's
like
good.
you gotta be on it.
Yeah.
It's going slow.
What made you want to do Portuguese?
I have a lot of Brazilian friends, and I'm not gonna learn French. No, Portuguese it is.
Portuguese it is. You have to teach maybe a Portuguese class sometime. What do you learn?
I need a class.
I
Yeah.
don't know, Lexi, do you want to say anything or?
Yeah, I do think, like I said, growing up, like I wasn't around a lot of other Latinos, and my parents predominantly spoke English in our house. Like, you know, my siblings spoke English. None of my friends really spoke Spanish, so I wasn't around the language enough to pick anything up. I think until working here is really when I felt comfortable to be like, I can still be a part of the community and do things for the community because it's my community.
Yes.
Just because I don't speak the language doesn't make it any less impactful to like do things. I also do my best, and like
Yeah.
I practice and say certain things. I was just saying some stuff at the restaurant, wasn't I? I said a couple things, so I tried. I'm very shy when it comes to speaking Spanish. I think that just because like growing up, like I was in Spanish class and like people be trying to cheat off of me, and I'm like, I know just as much as you. Like I'm
Yeah.
here too. So I think it's an insecurity, and I think rightfully so. But I think knowing that there are like leaders in the community and people who like make impact and do things who have that, you know,
and I'll share this with you because I'm learning this too. I don't think it's our insecurities. I don't think it's an insecurity for us. I think people have put that insecurity on
Yeah,
us.
for sure.
And so I love that we work together on flipping,
Mhm.
because I think nowadays we've always been told it's always us. But it's like, if I'm okay with who I am, it's your insecurities that you're putting on me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mhm.
Yvonne, did you want to say something?
No, what I'm thinking is, I think it's important to remember that our ancestors also didn't speak Spanish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love to say that all the time,
Yeah.
because that wasn't even the language.
No, it was the language of it was.
Exactly.
So it's also another way that society keeps dividing us because of
Yeah.
Spanish. So years, 700 years after, we're still being divided by Spanish.
Absolutely. Do we have any other?
No.
That-
I mean, I'm
Did I
not
drop
that
the
right
mic?
now.
I know.
It's fine at the time.
Shit generations, dude. Mine was my dad. My dad speaks in his indigenous language.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he speaks Sanpaval,
Cool.
the Mayan language.
You speak 3 languages?
He does, yeah.
That's
He had to learn
phenomenal.
Spanish in school.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. See, those are things that we don't know, and like
Mhm.
talking about it. And there's probably other people here in Kansas City who might have that same experience but don't really talk about it or have anyone to talk about it with.
Mhm.
You know? Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. Because my grandpa didn't speak Spanish at all.
Really? See? Did you learn any of it, or do you know any
I
of
know
it?
just a phrase, like the Hanik Shishune, which is, I think, hi, what are you doing?
That's amazing.
It's. I hear him speak it, I'm just like, that is a wild. I have a clip, I think, of him
You
saying.
need
It. I can
to.
pull it up, but I was like, that's a wild language you're saying over there.
I bet.
I'm sure that those are languages that are being lost too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not a single one of us speak it.
Yeah.
But
No.
we want to.
Right.
And then it goes back to the identity thing where we realize like our roots, like it might be too late for me, but it's probably not too late. I mean, it might be too late for me, but probably not too late for my other siblings.
Absolutely. And that you're open to helping them.
Yeah.
Is what makes it so amazing. And the fact that your sister's an
Yes.
engineer, like I feel like, is she also trying to bring up other engineers that look like
Oh yeah,
her?
of
See, that's
course.
what I'm
Like,
saying.
she surrounds herself with the women in STEM and stuff like that. And tries to be that representation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like those places are lonely sometimes,
Mhm.
you know, and
Especially
even
in STEM.
and like I get comments like even from my kids, like when they're in class, because it's predominantly Caucasian, that the experiences they bring to the table, they just get looked at like, what? But I tell them all the time, I was like, your experiences are no less than theirs. They just don't have an understanding of it. But you voicing it brings our roots to that table that otherwise they would never have been. So at least you're bringing something that maybe they don't give a crap about now, but I bet you anything they have in the back of their mind and taking it with them, right? So I think any little inkling that we have, we never should be ashamed of it. We should keep continuing to voice it out, even when you do get that, like, what the hell are you talking about? Or why is it even relevant? You know, like, who goes through that? Like, yeah. So it's important that she's doing that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that she picked it up at an earlier age than I did.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? This was a great conversation. This was a good first podcast.
Yeah.
Grant's talking to his sister in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it was
What's the name of the language again?
Juan Joel. But with a Q.
Yeah, well, I guess it's been almost an hour.
Wow.
I know, right?
We should talk about like the LAF stuff that's coming.
Okay, yeah. So if anybody wants to, you don't have to identify with Chicano, but we have Yo Soy Chicano coming up May 2nd, kind of kicking up our Cinco de Mayo, where we're learning about the roots that are here with our Chicano legacy, everywhere from lowriders to the mariachi, all a women group. We have Vicky Diaz, who's bringing in the brown beret conversation.
Vicky.
So yeah, so we're literally bringing in topics that bringing back those roots to voice, and we'd love to have you. It's going to be a phenomenal night. We also are finishing up our book club, Elevate Brown Voices, which has been so phenomenal. There's an event happening at Johnson County Community College with the author. The author's here.
The
Yes.
26th, May 26th.
May?
Not May. March.
They're May 26th. Like, where is she? March 26th, JCC. See, what time?
6.
We have to register, right?
You have to register. So check out their website, jccc.edu. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
The author will be here. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the book now. I have like
Brown Voices?
Yeah. For brown girls with sharp edges and tender hearts.
Oh, there.
So if you haven't read that book, please go out and read it for sure. We also have low riding model car coming up with Monica Pena and Aaron Munoz Jr. That's already got 10 students for June, so that's phenomenal.
Is it closed so people can
No, they can
sign
still
up?
sign up.
Okay.
Yeah, and everything's out on the website.
Bobby made it.
Oh yeah, the Body meetups. You want to talk about that again?
Yes, April 11th will be at Core Coffee here in the Northeast. We've been waiting to go there. So 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Come over, have a cup of coffee, and then just network with different professionals.
And Vince, featured
Okay, talk
artist.
about it. Let's you.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Vince,
You better look out for me.
Vince is the local artist. He's going to be featured at the Social Gallery right across the street from our office here on Lexington. He has amazing artwork. It's like, how did he describe it? Like modern, what?
The ones at Cafe Oyama, right?
Uh,
Cafe Corazon.
Cafe Corazon.
Yeah.
Was like futuristic.
There you go.
Why?
It was like futuristic, right? Huh?
No, just kidding.
I forgot who was that.
It was like futuristic, but like,
Like futuristic ancient. Like
Yeah,
they're very
yeah.
indigenous people,
yeah.
but on like futuristic. Like,
It's
futuristic.
very
Yeah.
anime.
It
Yeah.
is very anime.
And
Yeah.
he has a heart.
Yeah.
What is it called? A
Casey
Casey
heart.
heart.
Parade of heart.
Creative Hearts, yeah.
Yeah.
He has one of those. And so we're putting out some stuff about him, but it's gonna be
April 11th too. Same day as the Barrio.
yeah.
But in
Yeah,
the evening.
BD.
Oh yes. So I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody who gave to the fundraising for the Bitty Bitty brushes, which was something that just came out of nowhere. I think I told Yvonne one day, I was like, hey, should we do this? What should we do? And then my
And the
friend,
next day,
Monica Pena was like, do Selena. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know if that'll work, but let's try. Because we were thinking of Cesar Chavez,
Yeah.
and Dolores Huerta, and then it just came to Selena, and we're like, this is
Selena.
it. Yeah.
Selena brings everybody together.
Everybody. So they're both sold out. So thank you to Tio Cali. Enrique was phenomenal. We have 59 people that are going to be there. La Fonda Taquito, which are my amazing cousins, Maria and Sandy. They gave us La Fonda Taquito. That's going to be in April. And we just appreciate both of them for offering. And we have about 55 people at La Fonda. And yeah, it's going to be great. We have DJ Monte, what is the Jacob, the MC for Tio Cali.
Yes.
We have DJ Monte for the other event, and then
DJ Mr. E.
DJ Mr.
Premiering. New DJ.
You heard it here
Yes.
first. Say that name again.
DJ Mr. E.
Yeah.
We don't know. It's a mystery. We don't know. We'll find out.
It's a mystery for sure. It's a mystery.
Yeah, I was like,
We'll have to see if anybody comes up with who it might be. So
Yeah.
next podcast, next Thursday, we have DJ Monte with us.
Oh, yeah.
So next Thursday, I think 2 o'clock?
To-
We'll send it out. We'll send it out. You'll see it. We're so unconventional, but hey, that's how we roll, though. It works. But DJ Monte will be here with us, so we'll be talking to her about all her amazing work. But we just want to thank you guys. Raised so much money, and that money actually goes to our art exhibition that we're starting now. Because Silvio Miguel will be with Martha doing an exhibition in September and October for us, and then our low writing model car, and then we're doing a Spanish creative writing with Silvio Miguel. So she's going to bring creative writing that is predominantly Spanish for youngsters. So we have a lot coming up. We'll talk about LEC real quick. What you guys have coming up? Come
What do we
on.
have coming up?
Spanish classes.
Spanish classes for teachers are starting April 6th. This is a partnership with UMKC World Languages Department. We want to be a bridge between educators and parents, and this is an amazing way to help those teachers enhance their Spanish, and that way they'll be able to communicate better with parents and also create an inclusive environment in their classrooms with students. So that starts April 6th, every Saturday at 11 a.m. in also May. So don't miss out.
Yes.
We have the virtual career fair. We just did the first part today, and we have the second part next week. So we're talking to schools and districts about their job openings. So that should be out too.
And one other thing, we have a Google site that's going to get created for entrepreneurs. We're actually going to add your website to this site. Yes, Luis, I know. Luis is our creator over here. But so if you weren't able to come to the vendor meeting yesterday and give us your email and info, please reach out to me because we want to make sure you're a part of this website. Because we're just gonna have a connecting piece, man. We're gonna have where other Latino Chicano entrepreneurs have a space, and people can literally go there and find them and like get you going. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you guys. So I appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next Thursday. We'll figure out the time and we'll send it. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Break it down.